Hi everyone, my name is Franbel Ominari. Welcome to our channel. Ochareo, Ada Che, Chenife Chokun, Chenife Maru, Chenife La Ocha. Today we have the pleasure to interview Down Drake, that is a musician, songwriter, also a band leader, something that is so important to let all of you know in this interview. Now, welcome and thank
Thank
you
you.
for your time.
Thank you so
Guy,
much. Yeah, my
you
pleasure.
welcome. Uh, Please, I would like to know how do you start in the music?
How did I start in music? Well, I started playing piano when I was just a little girl, and my mother was a singer in church and a pianist in church. So we all played piano, and and then when I went to college, I started playing percussion.
Yes?
Yeah, so my first foray into percussion was with a Ghanaian teacher at college and at UC Berkeley, and and from there, actually, I spent a year in Ghana, West Africa, when I was in college at UC Berkeley. So that's where I started playing percussion and learning about music of the African diaspora.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I already had piano under my belt, and so yeah, I was very interested in the drum even then. So when I was like, I think I was 20 years old when I went to Ghana, and I spent a year there, and so I was studying Ghanaian percussion there, and then when I came back, that's then I started playing bass, and I continued with percussion, but there wasn't a lot of Ghanaian percussion in the
Yeah.
U.S. So I kind of drifted to the conga drum, the tumbarora drum, as opposed to the the drums that they were playing in Ghana, which are similar, but they're not the same. So then I started playing. Then I started to study congas and Afro-Cuban percussion in New York.
You from New York?
No, I'm from Virginia. I'm from the mountains of Virginia. I'm from the woods. Yes, I was born in the mountains. I lived there, yeah, until I was 12. It was a very rural area with cows and farms and not a lot of live music at all. So so I got all my musical like inspiration from the radio and TV. I'm a child of the mass media. So I would listen to, just pop and rock, and then my father was Slovenian, so we listened to polka, Slovenian polka, and Johnny Cash was one of my parents' favorite artists. But I also listened to a lot of what my mother listened to, which was soul music, because in North Carolina she was actually they have this thing called beach music, which is actually soul music, and so she was like a beach music dancer, and so I listened to a lot of funk and soul when I was growing up.
So, in other words, the music, it comes from your mother. Is your mother that you saw her singing and playing and go with you to the church?
Yeah.
It coming from her.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely, and probably a lot of other things too. but but yes, I mean, but I also I traveled. I started out like not being able to travel when I was younger, and so I put it in my mind that I was going to travel. That was my priority, was travel, and so that's when I started to go. Would save up my pennies, and I went on my first trip to Cuba in 1997, and but before then I was actually traveling. When I went off to UC Berkeley, also that was 3,000 miles away from where I'm from. I'm from Virginia, and I went to Berkeley, which was a big deal for me and my family. So from there, I actually went to Mexico quite a bit, and Guatemala and Belize, and so I was very into traveling and exploring as much as I could. So that, coupled with like the, the musical interest, I guess, is what got me to be to write the kind of music that I'm writing now.
You were traveling just because you have interest in the music or in another cultures in general?
In other cultures in general, and well, yeah, when I first went to Mexico, when I was just 18 or 19, I was like, wow, I want to experience this more. So that's when I went back and I applied for the year abroad, the year-long study program in Ghana. And then when I went to Ghana and I was just immersed in Ghanaian culture, that's when I started to collect cassettes and CDs. And well, actually at that time there were no CDs. So I used to collect cassettes, and I would listen to what other, in all our travels we went by road to all the different countries like Niger and Benin and Togo and Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire. And this was all by road travel. So we would hear the different music people were listening to, and then I'd pick it up and, I'd buy these cassettes. And yeah, it just changed how I listened to music. It changed how I saw the world in general. So yeah, but I didn't really know I wanted to be a musician until I moved to New York, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So it was kind of I was not somebody who was like, okay, bam, I'm going to be a musician straight away. No, I was like, I did dance, I did music, and I was also very good in school. So I always knew I was going to go to college. And from there, that's how I could sort of combine the two things, was like the music and the art and the academics together. It worked for me to explore different avenues.
When you were in Africa, it was the university program, no?
Yes.
And when you were there, you were studying music, the culture, or something else?
I was studying all kinds of things, but yeah, it was mostly music. I studied music, dance, and literature and history. I had to take a full course load, but most of my classes were music and dance, and literature. The sad or unfortunate part about the time in Ghana was that the school was on strike most of the time. So we got there, and the teachers went on strike. So we didn't have class for maybe 2 months or something. And then when we came back, then the students went on strike. So most of the year there was really no class, but you were still responsible for the material. So it was very challenging. But I have to say, I mean, my learning was more on the streets. It was more about getting to know people and and living with Ghanaians. And I had a Ghanaian roommate and, several friends. And so and the other thing was that the drumming instructor that we had actually got a job at West Virginia University a month after we got there. So he left, and he actually went to West Virginia and met my mom, which was great. But we're still in contact. He's a great Pascal Young. He's an amazing Ghanaian authority of music and drumming in general. So, but yeah, I mean, when you're in an environment like that where it's like you're experiencing everything for the first time, you're learning more just being there than you are in class,
When did you decide to go to Cuba?
Well, so I got back from Ghana, and we had met some Ghanaians who were living in New York, and it sounded very interesting. And I'd been to New York maybe once, and it never interested me because I was from the mountains, and I went to New York, and it's like you can't even see the sun, in New York. So I was like, why would anybody want to live here? I don't know. But then after some of my travels, I thought, well, New York seems like a really interesting place. So my friend who I traveled with a lot in Ghana, Robin, she moved to New York, and so I followed her. And I really didn't know what I was doing at all. So there was some dance. There were some dance studios that don't exist anymore, unfortunately. One was called Ferretta, and then later on it became the bigger one was Geneva. These were all
Yes, Geneva.
yeah, but before Geneva there was Ferretta, and Ferretta what had the same vibe that it was a studio for the African diaspora. For dance of the African diaspora. So I was going there, and I started studying with Xiomara Rodriguez dance, and I was sort of just dipping my toe in all these different styles of dance, and then I met a drummer named Juma Santos Ibae. He is no longer with us, but he had gone to Ghana, and he had also gone to Cuba, and he knew how to connect the dots between all the different styles of African diasporic dance and drumming, and so he was teaching me about Haitian drumming and Cuban drumming and Ghanaian and samba and how they're all connected. And I got very interested and fascinated with this history. And so he was the one that recommended to me that I go to Cuba because he had gone with Caribbean Music and Dance, which was an organization that was organizing trips to Cuba. And so he said, that's what you need to do. You need to go to Cuba. And so I did. And he also told me you need to study the bata drums. And no sooner had he said that than an opportunity fell in my lap to play bata with this women's group, with this teacher who was teaching women here in New York. And so I did that for 6 or 7 years. But somewhere in there, I went to Cuba because of this teacher of mine, Juma Santos. And so, yeah, that was 1997. That was the first time I went, and I went to Guantanamo for 2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
and what do you study in Guantanamo?
They had a program, and I'm not quite sure why I decided to do this program. I don't really remember, but anyway, it sounded very interesting, and it was. It was Haitian. It was Haitian Cuban folkloric drumming and dance. And they also had, there were two pathways you could take. You could either study Changui or you could study the Haitiano-Cubano drumming and dance. And so that's what I did. And we went and we studied Tahona and Gaga.
Gaga, yeah.
And then we also Vodou, some Vodou rhythms, all the singing, the songs. I have, booklets of the songs, and we saw so many different groups, Banrara, and then a lot of different Changui groups as well. But I was sort of new to the whole thing. I was new to Changui, and so I didn't know that much about it. But yeah, we went to the Casa de Changui in the mountains, and we went to Baracoa, and so yeah, that was really the first time I'd been to Cuba, and so I didn't really know that much about it, and so I've had to learn a lot since then. But yeah, I went for 2 weeks on the program, and then I stayed in Santiago for 2 weeks, and I studied. I had private lessons with my teacher, Carlos Perote, who now lives in Belize. And then from there, I went to Havana, and I studied a little bit with Vizcaíno before I went home. So I was very adamant about studying as much as I could when I was there.
Wow. Yeah, the Tahona and the Gaga, they are so related to the Haitian music. Because that area, the area in Cuba, a lot of Haitian and some Haitian live over there. So the music in that area of Cuba is more from Haiti, Jamaica, also.
Yeah.
This and at some point it's related with the Ghana music too. The root are so similar. The Gaga
Yes.
with
Yeah.
Ghana.
The Ewe, that's particularly the Ewe ethnic group, EWE, is the Ewe and the Fon are all from Dahomey, and so yes, and we also saw some tumba francesa dances and drumming. So yeah,
The tuba francesa is also the root is from
from
Haiti too.
Haiti. Yeah.
From Haiti.
Yeah.
And how all this percussion around the world, Africa, Cuba, impact your music?
Well, I didn't really start writing music until much later. I was trying to just play percussion and bass, and but at some point I kind of took a step back, because I have to say it's not the easiest thing in the world for a female percussionist to work that much or even get their foot in the door. So and especially, I was studying Bata, and, we know how that is not, it's a touchy subject when it comes to women playing Bata. So that was kind of why I kind of took a step back and I started to take vocal lessons. I started taking voice lessons, and from there, I would I started to hear melodies and start to write my own songs. And so then I would just add the percussion that I had already learned to my songs, which were kind of like pop songs. And so that's why my music is kind of this mishmash of pop with some samba and timba, and I use a lot of the bachata rhythms in my music as well. So I just started experimenting with like putting things together, and it really just starts with a melody or a line, and then and then just seeing what happens and seeing if you could add something that makes it more interesting. So yeah, I use all those rhythms. I mean, as much as I
But
can.
uh, how do you classify your music? Like Latin jazz?
No,
Um,
not really. No.
Not really, no.
I
It's
mean,
pop
some
music.
of them. Some of those songs could be Latin jazz.
Yes.
Some of them could be, I call it different things. I've called it tropical pop. I've called it global groove. I've called it Latin funk, global funk. Yeah, I don't, it's very hard to name. I call it grooves from the global south, because I just use a lot of, I use compa, I've written compa songs, sukus, salsa, I even put some Indian, North Indian melodies in there. And so, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's dance music. I find that like it has to have a groove. I'm very inspired by Afrobeat. I was in a lot of Afrobeat bands, like from Nigeria. I mean, the Fela Kuti movement that was popular here in New York in the late 90s. So that rhythm, the Afrobeat rhythm, I've written quite a few songs with that rhythm as well. So, yeah, it's hard to
Yes, I will
classify.
hear. Yes, I will hear some music of you that is more suku. Because
Yeah.
when I was living in Europe, I had the opportunity to play with uh, some musicians from Senegal, Guinea, and some suku there in your song is that African rhythm that is similar to the reggae. Is nice, but like you said, you cannot classify in one group. But the one that I like the most is the global global reading, global growth,
Yeah.
because you miss so many different roots in your songs. Why do you decide to be a teacher? Because I know that you are a teacher too, even though you are a band leader. You are a really busy musician.
Well, yeah, I think today's musician has to do a lot of different things. It's somewhat for survival purposes that we have to do so many different things. I mean, but I think that being able to teach is a great thing. And it's also rewarding. It's you're making a difference and you're making an impact in people's lives. you're also maybe opening people's minds a little bit. Maybe some people, didn't know that women also play drums, or, that women play different instruments. And also, I teach a lot of different things. So it's like I've been teaching little kids for a long time. And I have to say, it's been very rewarding. And I just started teaching college about 4 years ago, and that's a different situation. And it's also great because I teach about this. I teach my students about Tahona and Tumba Francesa. I teach my students about, the importance of Cuba and the importance of Haiti and the Haitian Revolution, and the importance of trying to decolonize education, and how this history and the African roots of popular music hasn't been given its the credit that it deserves. So in that, I feel that it's important for me to speak up, and speak up for racial justice and equity, and through music, and I can do that in my classes.
That's something so nice, because it's important. It's something that I was talking in my previous interview, that is important when we are teaching, also to teach the roots, and why this music is there and from where it coming from. That is something that the people are supposed to know. Do you
Yeah.
want to say something for your student or someone special interview?
Um, well, I want to thank you actually, because I remember
My
you came
pleasure.
to my house and you taught me. You came to my house back when I lived in the Lower East Side, and you taught me a lesson on the congas, and I think you taught me some Obatala rhythm, Obanla or something on the congas, and yeah, I'll never forget that, and I'm very grateful for all my teachers who have given me real instruction, and who didn't, hesitate to give me a chance to really learn. So, yeah, that's I definitely I'm very grateful to Vizcaíno and Carlos Perote, and Johnny Almendra, who was one of the best teachers in the world. These teachers really gave me the real stuff. Not everybody does, I have to say. I mean, some people they don't want to teach women, and that's just like I'm not going to get into that, but sometimes you get people that discourage you from doing it, but for every person that discouraged you, I'm so grateful for somebody who didn't, and who really taught me well. So
No,
thank you.
that is life. You're welcome. Yes, it was my pleasure, to teach you like other women,
Hmm.
because it's something that you like, it's something that you love, and I saw that you want to learn, because some people just they play just because for hobby or something like that, but it is not your case. You play because you want really to learn about the Afro-Cuban percussion. So in order
Hmm.
to keep our tradition alive, we need to teach people like you that they
Hmm.
really like the music. So thank you,
Thank
down there,
you.
for this interview, for your time
Oh
also.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Yes,
having me.
you're
And I
welcome. Just
and I
speak.
Oh, well, I just hope that, you get a chance to listen to my music, and whoever's out there listening to, check out some of the original music and see if you can hear those rhythms that we've been talking about.
That's nice. And they want to see you in this interview too. Leave your comment below if you have any comment for this interview with Down Drake. Like I said before, the musician that she play a bass guitar, teacher, songwriter, and band leader. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, subscribe to receive notification about new videos. Health, faith, and prosperity. Ya tú sabes. Oh, chale.